Well, today on eNCA, we have been focusing on the COVID Special Relief of Distress Grant. That's the 350 Rand a month that the very poor have been relying on during the pandemic. Social Security Agency Sassa is responsible for making sure social grants are delivered to the right people, the elderly, vulnerable children, those with disabilities. Backing up that social grant system are two things, people and technology. And people at Sassa who are skilled and passionate about getting the money to those who need it most are at the heart of true civil service. Moipone Shabalala was born in Koster in the 1990s. From a poor family, she remembers travelling as a young girl with her mother to pick up food parcels provided by the Department of Social Development. She attributes that social security net for saving her and then helping her to go on to get a degree and a job. Well, today, she works at Sassa, and her story illustrates not only how these grants do help, but also how they can change lives. Moipone Shabalala, Senior Manager of Business Solutions at Sassa, joins me now. Thank you so much for joining us. And your story is truly an extraordinary one. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about you and your family, those early days living in Koster, and how you and your mum relied on social support when you were growing up. And it wasn't just food parcels, but I understand also the school feeding program and NSFAS as well to help you study.
Yes, definitely, Sally. Thank you for having me today. And I am really motivated to be joining you and to speaking about my story that shows that I relate with regards to the services that are provided in terms of the social net. Just to maybe go back in terms of your question, yes, that story touches to my core in terms of my upbringing, because I come, like you have mentioned, from your typical poverty background where I grew up from, where my mother was at certain points a domestic worker and at certain points even jobless. So the food parcels that were being issued by the Department of Social Development was our ticket meal in terms of me making sure that I can get food at the end of the day. That meal that I would get at the end of the day, I would attribute it to the social services that were being provided for by the Department of Social Development. And like you were mentioning, the food nutrition scheme at this school, I remember very well that it was peanut butter and bread that we would get and juice. But at least, Sally, it would get me going in terms of my activities at school to make sure that I can be able to focus on my studies on a full stomach, and I can be like other kids who would be having lunch. It is that supported me in that instance. So I am, like you're saying, the one of the results or the outcome of the social security net services, and I am proud and passionate to be also part of it going forward in terms of now giving back. Thank you, Sally.
It's a wonderful full circle in many ways. Just tell us quickly, what did you study? How did it lead you to be working for Sassa?
I studied at the Potchefstroom University. It was called then when I joined it in 2002, but now it has since changed to be called Northwest University. I studied a BCom. I did a BCom in economics and risk management, which is what I was trying to move it in terms of my career. But I should hope that life, as in everything, sometimes have different plans for each and every one of us. In terms of how I moved into the space of the solutions or the technologies that would be able to enable the organization to meet its objectives, I had then, my first job led me in terms of being a process modeler. I was a process modeler, and I grew up in terms of business analyst from my first job. When I joined Sassa, when I was a business analyst at that point in time, whereby I was responsible in terms of the business processes of the organization. So that's how I joined Sassa in terms of work that I do currently.
Yes, and now you're a manager, senior manager of business solutions. I'm wondering, there's such a bad reputation for civil servants that they're not particularly interested, that they don't care, they're just clock watchers. I would imagine, particularly with your background and how social services have assisted you, you must be quite passionate about getting things right. Talk to me about being a true civil servant. What makes you persevere even through incredibly difficult times? I mean, we know that Sassa has not had an easy time, that it must be heartbreaking from your point of view to see people who've been waiting in those lines and they don't get those grants. How tough is it, and how do you keep that spirit of being a noble civil servant alive in your heart in the tough days?
Most certainly, Sally. I think my background, as we've mentioned earlier, motivates me in terms of to say the impact that those people who were civil servants at that point in time, who made sure that I received those social services. I believe that I'm standing in their shoes right now, and my passion comes directly from there to say I want to make an impact in somebody's life out there, so that someone sometime 10 years from now can be able to be passionate again and be able to also make that pass that bait in terms of what I have done and be able to impact the lives of others at the end of the day. I believe as part of government's motto, the going around now is about an impact. It's not only about what you do. You can say I did my job in 8 to 5, but did it make an impact? For me, it's about what extra lengths, what extra miles I can go through, I can give to make sure that what I do at the end of the day has an impact in someone's life, same way as it did in mine.
I have to ask you, as a Senior Manager of Business Solutions at Sassa, we've been hearing stories from people all day, grateful for the 350 Rand, worried that it's going to end, but also many people who've not yet received it, and we have seen quite a few glitches. From your side of the business, what is the toughest aspect? Is it the computer systems, the modelling systems, the networks that perhaps don't function on an integrated level? Is it disinterested colleagues, or is it corruption? What is the toughest part of your job?
I think, Sally, the toughest job would be to make sure actually that at the end of the day, what we do impacts the experience that we create. So from that, and you would have heard even the minister earlier on, she mentioned to say, in terms of this grant in particular, the agency and us as from the team that I work with, we had only 2 weeks to make sure that we deliver this particular system. So for me, it's about we had to do it under the limited time frame and limited resources, and resources also talks to time. So I believe in my heart of heart, and we have given the best as an agency, as the unit that is responsible for this deliverable in terms of making sure that the 350s are actually being paid at this point in time. Understanding the panic from the citizens there about the concerns around it, I believe the bottom line and the most important factor is we keep on as Sassa paying the 350s to these people that actually are in dire need of, and with the understanding that it is important to them and it touches at their core in terms of if they have that 350, it means something for them because it's all they have. So the toughest thing around the 350 for me would be to say there was limited time and limited resources, but with that, Sally, I still believe that a perfect and close to a perfect system came out of that, and most people, around 6 million at this point in time, are benefiting from that. And for that, I am also just grateful.
Would you
as well in this
very quickly, would you like to see that grant continue? We know it's ending at the end of this month.
Sally, for me, I would say being in the shoes that these people are in, I would say yes, but I believe there's a lot that surrounds in terms of the yes that I'm saying. It comes from the economy where we are at this point in time. So there's multiple factors that are around whether this grant can continue or not. But personally, and this is from my personal point of view, being a public servant, being the recipient or the outcome of the social services, I would say at this point in time, looking at the economy, looking at what the COVID-19 has done in the lives of people, I would say yes, I would like to see it continuing.